Do you feel overwhelmed sometimes with the amount of reading that you have to do? I know that I do. I suppose all of us, regardless of our discipline or profession, should be trying to read a reasonable amount of research, but there are only 24 hours in the day, and there's a torrent of new studies coming at us. The idea of keeping up with research then, to my mind, is something of a fantasy. It sets unrealistic expectations for students and for hard-working clinicians. So what are we going to do? We need some kind of strategy. And what I'm going to suggest is that we may want to try to think less about what to read and more about who we should be reading. We need to read the work of the best authors, the one who really put value into their papers, not the ones who are just filling up the literature with dross. So who are these high-value authors? Well, to digress a little bit, and this may surprise you, most papers in science, including most papers in the health sciences, are never ever cited. This means that the contents were essentially useless to the research community. The papers contained so little new information or information of value that nobody ever built upon this work. A lot of these papers are one-off publications written to fulfill some course requirement or to tick off a checkbox for promotion. So when we're deciding whose papers to read, we want to read papers that are part of a lineage, and by that I mean they're papers which build on previous work and papers which act as a foundation for work moving into the future. These papers are the work of career investigators, by which I mean career researchers or career clinicians who have a sincerely held belief in some clinical question. That doesn't mean they have to have a gazillion publications. For a clinician, a half a dozen case studies or case series around a single clinical phenomenon signals someone who is knowledgeable and dedicated. Even for a full-time researcher, it's quality, not quantity, that counts. I can think of a particular researcher in cardiovascular function who, in the course of his career, produced maybe several dozen publications. That would mean one or two within a year, but each one of those papers changed the way in which people thought about the field. From now on, and especially if we're students just starting out in our professional studies, let's begin to follow authors. When we have a paper to read, let's look at the corresponding author and look at their other works and decide whether in fact they are a career researcher. If they have a track record in a field, then we can probably feel confident that we're making a good investment with our reading time. There are only 24 hours in the day, so let's try to separate the wheat from the chaff when we're deciding what to read. Thanks very much.